Welcome to another exciting episode of TBS Corporate. Today we have three experts, one from the retail space, one from the auto sector, and another from the information technology space. And we are going to cover one topic which is probably most relevant today under the current situation, which is goal setting in a pandemic. Under the current situation, it's anything but easy to predict how the pandemic is going to impact businesses going forward and how long it is going to impact. And also, it's all hard to visualize the outcome of today's decisions, maybe 6 months from now or 1 year from now. So when we talk of goal setting, I think there are two aspects. One is the professional goal setting that impacts the businesses that we are represent, and it's also the personal goal setting that probably demands a different frame of mind and focus to be able to maintain our emotional quotient, so to say. And to discuss all this, we have today Mr. Amit Sharma Khandelwal, a high-performance retail professional and vice president of Future Group. He's also the visiting faculty in several B schools across India. Welcome to the show, Amit.
Thank you very much, Asha ji, and thank you very much, Mr. Sid.
We also have with us marketing specialist Malhar Barai, who heads marketing at Tech Mahindra for APEC and India region. And he is the global head digital marketing strategy for Tech Mahindra. An active blogger and speaker, he is also the co-host of SEO Talk. Welcome to the show, Malhar Barai.
Thank you so much, Asha. Glad to be here.
And our third panelist for the day is Nalin Kapoor, an automotive sales professional with 24 years of experience. And he has been associated with some of the biggest names such as Yamaha, Honda, Ford, and Hyundai. He is a British Chevening scholar and a certified TQM trainer. Welcome to the show, Nalin.
Thank you very much.
In order to set the context in perspective, may I request each of you to share your thoughts on how the industry that you all represent have reacted, responded, and performed over the last 6 months in terms of the business continuity plan, because COVID was a bolt from the blue on all of us, and it's not been easy, I'm sure. So what kind of experience have you had transitioning to the new situation that we are all in today? So if I may start with Amit.
So first of all, thank you to Mr. Baliga and thank you, Asha ji. Hello to Mr. Malar and Nalin. If you ask me the impact on retail worldwide, so I think I'll divide retail into, if it's a whole pie, let's divide this pie into three segments. So one is an unorganized segment, which is in India is like around 85%, which is a dominant force, mom and pop stores or kirana stores. 15% is further divided into two, which is e-commerce, which is around 3 to 4%, and then balance goes to the organized retail, brick and mortars, which we say. So to your first question, sub question in that, how we reacted. So the reaction was shut the store. That was the first reaction on, I think 15th March, that was Sunday. I still remember the CM of Maharashtra, and he came, I think, on the news and on news channel and on Twitter, and he mentioned that from tomorrow, Mumbai, Maharashtra is shut. And I know the way we started getting calls, it was like we don't know what to do next. And I think Tuesday, Wednesday, Mr. Modi, our Prime Minister, came on national television and he mentioned that for next 3 weeks, till 13th of April, it will be complete lockdown. So the reaction was, oh my God, what to do? Okay, and local was shut, which is like the lifeline of Mumbai across India. You could see like there was uproar, what to do now. So first reaction was shut the store. Then slowly and steadily, the government came into action and how to at least make sure the essentials are getting delivered at the stores from our manufacturing house or from the farmers or from our distribution centers, and how it is delivered further to the customer's doorstep from online perspective. And I'll give one example there. Mumbai Police that time formed a group, and I'm a part of still that group is there. And all the senior people from the industry, whether it is from DMart or whether it is from Ninja Card, whether it's from other retailers, they formed a group where all IPS level officers were there, and they were just totally hand in glove with the situation. The way they were helping, even if there is one employee who's stuck. So I remember somebody from group was just mentioning, "Sir, one of my delivery staff has been caught at some Naka, and he's messaging to the additional commissioner of one part of Mumbai." So, and he was responding. So that was, if you ask me, I quite like the way the government responded. I think across India, we could witness that. Uh, one more thing, when you spoke about how we perform, the performance is not static. So retail, if you see, fashion has got the biggest blow. But in fashion also, if party wear and ethnic wear is not doing well, sleepwear is doing phenomenal business across the country, across the world. Apart from sleepwear, your athleisure, so it is athletic plus leisure. So athleisure plus fitness wear. Fitness wear is a boom. So I was talking to somebody who takes care of online business for Canada and US. So one of the online players is saying, Dada, if you can do some sort of business in fitness category, fitness wear and fitness equipment, like dumbbells are out of stock on Amazon. First 2 weeks, dumbbells and sports equipment. There's a one big company, I am not getting the name. So I think Peloton, which is one of the biggest names in fitness in US. So they have got, you see their share market. I think their share is I think 3x of what they were pre-COVID level. India also, some categories grocery is doing fine, and some categories are not doing well. Furniture, we don't know out of the blue, furniture is suddenly doing well because work from home, people want their desks, people want their chairs. So I think it's a mix and match for retail industry globally and for India. And again, category wise and again country wise. That's my take for retail.
Very interesting, very comprehensive. So I think Mumbai is one of those places which also had the biggest problem of migrants.
Yes. Migrants and I'm sorry, but I'm from Rajasthan.
Oh,
So
okay.
not now, but in May, June, I was getting calls from my in-laws and from my relatives. Boss, why are you stuck in Mumbai? You should leave Mumbai. Like you are at the epicenter of, it's like World War II. You're in the red zone of World War II.
Right,
But
right.
we know what is the situation like. So that was a big situation. I think a lot of corporates and a lot of social activists came in action to rescue the people. So
Right.
that was a good story overall.
Great. Thank you, Amit. Malhar, we can have your insights.
Definitely. And I'm glad Amit brought a nice point. So it's, and I would second that there were like categories of industries that were impacted, and say, unlike them, we are more B2B focused, right? So for us, it was like, how are our customers doing? Because our future depends on how their future is, right? I echo the sentiment in terms of there were some sectors, some industries which suddenly started doing too well, right? So while travel and leisure definitely had a downfall, but if you look at say categories like retail, like booming, right? So and what we found, right? So there was an increased pressure on most of those industries to digitize, right? So while everyone was there in a journey of digitalization, however you call it, now there was an accelerated push, right? So everyone wanted, so say from say smallest of the store, they wanted cloud, get on the cloud, get automation. They were wondering how AI, ML, etc. is going to help them, right? So there was sudden flurry of activities for on the digitization front, and I believe Tech Mahindra and the peers definitely have benefited from it. While there was cost pressures, definitely yes, and the increased cost also came in terms of moving the employees home, right? So it was not very easy situation. While it's rosy on one front for certain industries, if you look at some of those industries like banking, right, which are which are very regulated, right? For them, moving their back offices is very tough, because you need to be work with government, work with the banks, all, and their guidelines, etc., have to follow. Because if I had to move one desktop from my office to a worker's home, it had to go through so much processes, because there needs to be a government approval, there needs to be a bank approval, the bank has to get it from somewhere else, right? So definitely there are process related, and what we saw is everyone was helping, right? So everyone, including government, including other say regulatory bodies, were helping to ensure that BAU is not affected, right? So there was a rosier side, and there was the challenging side also. And at the same time, we have to ensure that the employee morale also stays high, right? So it was not easy for everyone to work from home, right? Not everyone is blessed with a space in a country like ours to do their job. So that's something that we had to be mindful as well.
Yeah, and also I guess the challenge of internet connectivity would have been a major problem, because suddenly we are thrown into this and not everybody would be ready with facilities to be able to work from home.
Absolutely. And if you look at the younger crowd, so see, most of, say, us and our peers have a larger chunk of younger crowd, and they would be staying in those PG accommodations, etc., where there are low speeds, and even in their hometowns, if they move to their hometowns, they don't probably have the best of the internet connections, right? So catering to all those issues was something that was a big challenge for us as well.
Interesting. Thank you, Malhar. Yeah. Nalin, your views on the auto sector? I guess there are mixed, just like retail. I think you have mixed reactions and responses depending on the segment of the auto sector, right? So can we have your views on it?
Sure, thank you very much. So I represent the traditional auto space, which you mentioned, and last few years I've spent in cardeco.com, which is a new age auto. So I'll give you a comprehensive perspective, you know. So first and foremost, so I was listening to Amit and listening to Malhar also. So from one angle, from one point of view, automotive business or car business or whatever is not an essential business in that term, right? So Amit, you were mentioning that in stores there were groceries and there were other things essential, you know. So the whole society, the government wants it to function because people need it on a day-to-day basis, right? Auto industry, unfortunately, doesn't fall into that category. Right? And second important element to understand about auto industry, it's hugely manufacturing driven, right? And those plants are very big centers. You know, a plant for Hyundai in Chennai can produce 700,000 cars per annum. You know, the very big units. And that also means the way they're structured, the fixed cost element is very high, right? So you can't plug in, plug out, shut down, reduce it, you know, I mean, but that was the first impact. You know, the moment this happened, the automotive dealerships, they had to close down. They had to down their shutters because each big dealership has about 100, 200, 400 people, you know, all around. So they're big spaces. There was no way anybody could run them. So they closed down. And when they closed down, the consumers stopped coming. They stopped lifting the vehicles, even what they had booked earlier. So there was stock at the dealership. And because of that, right, the plant had to immediately stop producing. Any which ways, the movement was impossible. And that created quite a stress among all manufacturers because, as I said, you know, it's a heavily capital intensive industry. Fixed costs are very high. Even if you don't run your plant for a few hours, a few days, you tend to lose millions of dollars. So I think those were very challenging times for the industry. You would have read a lot in the newspapers, you know. It's quite something which people had no clue about. And there was no response, you know. It was not like groceries or it was not like, let me say, apparels or something where you found a via media. Okay, this is not selling, I can sell this. Okay, this. Here you had the total industry shut down. Imagine all the plants, 10, 15 plants across the country, two-wheelers, four-wheelers, so many people, their vendors, and their vendors, sub-vendors, a very big ecosystem. All that had to shut down. 5,000 automotive dealers had to shut down. There was no business. So, it was very challenging. I think the industry lost a lot during those times.
Right. And I think cash flow would have been terribly hit in the auto space.
Absolutely. As I said, there was no way anything could move. And even the vehicles which were transporting goods from the factories, they couldn't move because no way it's an essential product, you couldn't say, hey, I have to reach because somebody has to buy a car,
Right.
Where there are other pressing priorities, I have to get some atta, I have to get some dal, whatever. So those were times. Now, how it impacted on the digital side, you can see that immediately we were able to see there was and that's the beauty of digital part of the business. We were able to see a sharp drop in the inquiries and the consumer visits, very sharp, within 2 days, a week. So you could spot that, yes, people, their mindset, the way, the condition they are in distress. And so that was the repercussion. Absolutely nobody had any clue, or nobody had any scope to work around it. That's one of the industries. So I think auto industry was hit much harder than probably many others.
Right? Yeah, right.
Much harder. There was, and nobody had a way out.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. But what happened is, I think even during these times, there are people who responded. First, I'll talk about manufacturers, and then I'll talk to you about digital players, what they did. Some manufacturers, they started to apply digital solutions very sharply, right? In fact, if you remember, there were a few launches which have happened over the last 3-4 months. Right? Kia has launched their Sonet, done very well. Hyundai has launched Creta, and so on and so forth. So while the first couple of months, people did not know what to do, but very soon manufacturers figured out that, okay, while manufacturing may take some time, but at least let's start generating consumer interest. And what some of the auto technology players, what they did was they started developing those solutions, right? Online customer management tools, virtual launches. So 3 or 4 launches that happened over the last few months, they're all virtual.
Right.
So a typical launch, like I've handled various launches, what happens, you invite about 150 journalists to hotels, it happens in 2 or 3 places in the country, show a car, Q&A, all that bit. Now, all that got substituted, you had virtual launches.
Yes.
Okay. So pleasantly surprised to say and feel that both the traditional auto industry as well as auto technology and digital firms, they tried to find a way.
Right. So I guess there's a mixed response that we can probably see in this space.
Absolutely. The role of digital has become even more pronounced than ever.
Right.
That is very clear to this industry. See, in terms of retailing, in terms of banking or something, digital was already gaining momentum. Right.
Interesting. And that's good news for Malhar.
Yeah. For auto, this is kind of clarion call. Yeah.
Right.
Over to you.
Thank you, Naren. Sid, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Asha. Very interesting perspectives. So I'm going to raise one point which is more from a Aam Aadmi perspective. So the employee perspective. How has the employee morale been affected during these last 6 to 8 months? Because we see a lot of leadership gyan on, employees should be loyal, they should not jump jobs, and whatever be the tough situations, they should stick on to the same organization. But on the other hand, we see organizations have simply thrown out people at the drop of a hat. And how do you think employees in future are going to behave, or how is the behavioral change going to be? And how are goals obviously going to be assessed based on this? So open to all, maybe we can start with Mr. Malhar.
You're on mute.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And then it's an interesting way to start the conversation. So typically, and we employ a lot younger generation, if I can put it that way, right? And what we have seen, and we are internally also developing some tools, is many of them are kind of becoming gig workers, right? So the gig influence is gaining traction a lot. So what you say is there will be people on contract, people will be working for short duration of time for a certain skill, for a certain skill set, certain technology, and that is what is gaining traction these days. In terms of the employee morale, there were various initiatives. See, for example, at TechM, what we did, and probably if you follow Tech Mahindra channels on social media, you would have, just before this show, we concluded a live conversation where our CEO was interacting with one of our partner CEO, right? So we have been doing those kind of show internally as well, very internal facing conversation, where we had the CEO of IBM and a few other brands coming in, showcasing their perspective. So it was not just the CEOs of IT. So we had very diverse personalities coming in, showing how to stay relevant, right, in the current situation, and how to still keep on moving forward. There were some of those messages, and something that I relate very well to Mr. Vinit Nair from HCL, right? So he brought up and said, he put some very nice examples, and one thing that stood out was like, you just cannot stand still. You have to keep on moving. The times will change, right? You have to be ready with whatever you have, because see, no one has seen tomorrow. You can have your plans whatever way you want, but you can't predict the future, right? So be relevant for today, and that's a message for, I guess, every one of us, that while you can always say that I have this plan for tomorrow, we all know that we don't know what the future would be like. So being relevant is the most important aspect that he has brought in.
So be always prepared for a war.
Absolutely. Because the current situation, I think we can say new normal, old normal, etc. But no one was prepared for it, right? I can bet on anyone and say that, okay, one person says yes, we are ready. I have still not seen a person in last 8 months who's saying yes, we were ready for this, right? No one anticipated the scale, right, that this brought in, and it disrupted, right? It disrupted various industries. And as I said, right, and like Nalin also said, right, the impact of digitalization on industries, right? I'm seeing so much acceleration because see, for me, the advantage was I handle different regions also. So I see the same thing happening in Australia, even in Japan, across the smaller ASEAN countries, right? So countries like Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, everyone is trying to accelerate their journey on digitalization. Everyone is saying, okay, how can you help us to be relevant, right? How can you help us to ensure that a certain process is optimized further with technology? And we see, because we have been working with a lot of those cloud-based service providers, every single person wants to get on the cloud. And if you follow the news recently, IBM hived a separate company just for cloud business, right? So that's the impact. And yeah, there are companies like Reliance who reap the benefits also, right? So yeah.
Great inputs. Amit, would you like to add on?
Like Aam Aadmi, I'm also an employee. I think the biggest morale is getting 100% salary and getting on time, at least for last 6 months from April onwards. I think April was also okay when you got the salary, but from April, the entire, especially the retail sector, I know the grocery stores, I know the mall operators, the retail stores, online, offline, across, whether they are Yum Brands or Domino's, F&B, cinemas, PVR, INOX. Like yesterday, I was talking to somebody in INOX, so they were preparing that. Okay, we'll start the theaters very soon, but again, there is no diktat from the government. So he was like, yeah, Amit, if we are not getting a clear diktat or a clear message communication from the government, then I think we might have a salary reduction of as high as 85%. Well, like 85% salary cut. So forget about appraisal, bonuses, performance reviews. It is about getting 100% salary for most of. And I've been associated with many B schools in India. So they were like, sir, what will happen? Because placement season just started now. Since October will have already started. So their final semester will over, and December will be full peak post Diwali. So they are like, Mega, this is like I've seen 2001. We all have seen that 2001 and 9/11 attack. 2008 or 13 was SARS, but not impacted us. But that was the rise of Alibaba. SARS was what SARS has got to Alibaba. Same we are expecting will get to Reliance, I think, in India as such. But from employees' perspective, boosting morale, I think one thing, especially in retail, what we have thought of, that your job is having an impact on the society, especially when it comes to essentials. That time it was like we are going on a war. Like my family was like, why the hell you are going in June? Like if May, I know it was lockdown and we are going and we were meeting the police officers and requesting for permissions and all. They were like, boss, you should stay at home. But we know that was no sort of call of a duty that time. That was because logo ko aata mile, khana mile. That was our priority, especially when it comes to essentials. I think that morale was helping the society, and you are creating an impact of the world, not through technology, but just by being available. Product is available. Maal dukaan pe hai. That's what I think. And going ahead is very highly uncertain and highly unpredictable. We don't know what kind of metrics we are going to use. But at least if you really ask me, we are all hoping across the industry, whether it is theater, F&B, or hardcore retail or online, offline, we should start getting, I think we're expecting 100% salary, the earlier level, and Diwali bonus if possible. That's I think, is the biggest morale, will be the biggest morale for the arm employee like us.
And what about those Aam Aadmis who are now stuck on Naukri.com 24/7? Those are not so fortunate, maybe like you or your colleagues.
Yeah.
What is the impact on their morale?
Yeah, if you really ask me, I've been very active on LinkedIn since last 6 months. Other like last 1 year, I've taken a digital detox completely. No platform, no Facebook, no, not even a single. I deleted all apps. If May onwards, I think I did something. I wanted to do something on academics. So April, I was done with that. I thought, let me start with on LinkedIn. So one thing I'll speak with you on that is, people have been posting that no, I need help. Now this is my final request. I am sort of groceries to help, and I've seen the 14,000 likes. People are commenting for better reach. But Mr. Balika, understand that people, you need to help me to help you. Like on daily basis, I think I'm sure Mr. Malar, Mr. Nalin, you, Asha, you must have been getting requests no for helping a job. Sir, I don't have a job no, or some of the other help. But I always tell to the students and to people who are asking for a job that please help me to help you. Please identify your skill sets. If somebody is in my network, can be of your help me so that I can connect you with that. They just write, Amit, I'm a data scientist. Is there any job opening in Future Group? That's not my job to find a job for you. You tell me there is this job and this matches with my skill set, and there is this job opening in Future Group also. He is the hiring manager. Can you help me in connecting with this hiring manager? Simple. So there have been some very smart people, students also. They've asked me that, like I think 2 weeks back, somebody, one of my ex-student, her name is Pooja Jhawar, I remember. She is with O&M, and she is, I think, with because of some circumstances, she is now looking for a change, or she is now desperate for a change, whatever. She didn't ask for a job. She told, I know somebody in your contact who is with Tata Click. Okay, and I know she is a senior HR person there, and she was my old colleague in Future Group. Can you just connect with me and just write one recommendation? A brilliant way to help me to help her. So I think people who are looking for jobs and all, I think the moral is you have to be a bit intelligent, common sense, and use some methodology, have some methodological approach towards finding a job. Just by posting, no, I think that's what my take is. My take on people who are looking for job.
So it's going to be like the survival of the fittest. So you have to fight it out in the jungle. So that's the moral of the story.
Absolutely. If we have to read, I think *Sapiens* is a must for all of us. That I think that should be the way forward.
Nalin, would you like to add something to this? What's your take?
I think Amit and Malhara covered it very comprehensively. A couple of things which I would like to share. See, this particular incident, I think, has lend a lot of maturity to very young employees also. I've seen that. Okay, because very early in their careers, they have seen a big disruption like this. And usually for initial 10-15 years of your career, you don't face these kind of things. So a lot of young crowd has to face this disruption very early. And I must say that has made them very mature, definitely. When I talk to a lot of people, the way they quickly responded, the way they understood the implications, the way they understood the pulls and pressures of the senior management as well as their company in terms of salaries, cut in salary, bonus. I think so they have certainly matured. Okay? And what I also saw is while there is stress, but there have been some positive movements from those guys. I see a lot of people trying to retrain, reskill themselves. So initial 3 months or something, April, May, June, largely when almost everything was shut, I had seen hundreds of people who were doing courses, digital courses on digital, courses on data sciences, courses on banking, on insurance or something, because they knew that reskilling and reimagining what they are set to do is very important. Right? So in this gloom and dullness, I would say that's one positive streak of light, that a lot of many people have tried to re-educate, reskill themselves on very, very practical terms, right? They have been very mature. They have understood what the whole world and their own companies and bosses were going through. They have responded well. And we had to take, I think all companies had to take some harsh calls, but people were, they could respond. There were no ugly situations because it was, hey, this is a big ship. Not everybody can survive, but a lot many people can survive. So can we repurpose some of you? So I think, and Asha, to talk about the point which you made earlier as to what kept people going, what I think what I felt was that whenever you had a good level of communication with people, right? Formal, informal, I think that communication really helped them. So the teams were bound together, and I could sense people telling him, hey, office jana bada acha lagta hai, for a change, people felt. But in the confines of what we had, I think the communication, the way people interacted, and one-on-one calls in terms of what's happening in their personal life. I remember one of my team members, he is in Gurgaon, and his mother, for whatever reason, was stuck up somewhere in Kanpur. Very bad situation, so he was not getting a permission to go there in his car. So finally he got there, he brought the lady back. All this took 2-3 weeks, Now we were able to engage, talk to each other, and so on and so forth. So yes, very harsh times for people, but I think our professionals, and especially the younger lot, they have matured a lot. They have seen very tough situation very early in their career, which I'm hopeful will help them in the long run. Right? They will also appreciate what a business is like, and what is the VUCA world, and what all can go wrong. And so it's not that, hey, I am here, this is my salary, I definitely have to get this. No, people understand things can go wrong. And when people understand things can go wrong, they try to prepare themselves mentally or in terms of skill set. So a lot of bad stuff has happened, but I'm taking some optimism out of it. Whoever has gone through this, right, would come out wiser, better, stronger, more trained, more empathetic. That's what I say.
Great. I think all valid points.
I would
Asha.
add something here. I would like to add something.
Yeah, sure.
Like what Mr. Nalin has pointed out very well, that we have been doing courses and upskilling ourselves. So if you look at these stages, so I think March 2 weeks was the shock period, like what to do. April was learning cooking style. I know I was learning baking and now buying those gourmet food items. Then I was Ramayana, Mahabharat, then followed by Netflix. And then from May onward, this is the trend I have been seeing among students, ex-students who passed out last 2 years back, 3 years back, and the current students. Everybody is upskilling. I know my ex-boss, who's a CEO with one of the organization, he has enrolled himself with IIM Ahmedabad course. And I know so many of people who have enrolled with, and they were inquiring me, Amit, we should do some executive course, kindly help us. I know we are thinking 6 months, paisa nahi kamayenge, but we will just learn something, we'll unlearn something. And I know one person, he is in Dell, a senior person in Dell. He is doing a course from a degree from IIT Chennai, online degree, and he's a general manager there. And he was like, I'm thinking that let me learn something hardcore thing. And he's an engineer, but he still want to do something in coding and artificial intelligence, doing apart from job. And I really didn't feel that I should do this. But this, because of pandemic, I think I had to be more reasonable to my own self. And I need to upskill my skill sets. So I think that's a very valid point what Mr. Nalin pointed out.
Great. Asha?
Yeah, thank you, Sid. Sid was mentioning about employee morale, so that brings me to the next point. In the current work from home situation, there are huge challenges, right? Managing employees who are working from home, because you have to manage their distractions, the negative emotions, the lack of sense of belonging. So how do you manage to keep their morale high while they work from home? Drive their performance, make sure that there are no communication gaps, and yet make sure that they stay productive. I'm sure it's not an easy task, right? So I'm sure individually we would have had our own ways of achieving it. So if there's something that you can share, I think that'd be very useful for people who watch this video. Starting with, should we start with Amit?
Okay, I'll take this up. So if you ask me what Mr. Nalin has said, even Mr. I think Malar has shared his thought on this. Communication was the key. I remember every day when the lockdown started, I think especially after 10th of April, I still remember. But this is like once in a century event. And I think we'll be testimony that what we did. I think there will be sagas and stories. We were there in the, survived, and we were there during that lockdown. So I think people will talk about this, and once in a century event, and we are present in this event. So I remember he mandated that every day we'll have a Zoom call. That was, I think, 11 o'clock. And we will talk about first, are we exercising enough? Trust me, there was nothing related to job and all. Because everything was shut, only Big Bazaar essentials were working. So are we exercising? Are we having our meal on time? So I think it was more of a self-discipline. And what I did to my team, it was compulsory. I think I worked an extra mile, and I shared that kind of rapport. So I think I was sort of bossy or like a big brother. I told them, and there are people who are in my team. One is 63-year-old, two are above 50. One is ex-Navy, and they are like, "Are Amit ji, ab humko bhagao mat aave." So it was compulsory that meditation. Make sure we have to do what kind of, whether it can be religion, it can be spiritual, whatever you want. Second is some fitness and some eating habit. It can be any type of food. So it was more on self-discipline initially. And I could see now everybody, like I have a full journal where I think I never did meditation as such. I know I'm that sort of hustler kind of things. I thought meditation, what is meditation? Now I've got a waking up app by Sam Harris and some sort of Sadhguru and Vipassana, so I'm mixing. So I made sure that everybody's whatever suits them, morning and evening, some meditation, some fitness. We were talking about that. And then again, the other part was we are having an impact. Again, sorry, but I'm using the same thing. We are having an impact on our society by opening our stores to the customer, by delivering the goods at their doorstep on time, by making sure the food are well stocked in our stores. So I think these are a few points, and it was more of a personal thing. If you ask me, how's your dad? Your dad is in his 60s, so make sure don't let him go. And I remember one incident. Sorry, but his dad, one of my colleagues, not my team member, his colleagues, he's from the Future Consumer, and he was in Patna. His father was going for morning walk every day during May. Finally, he was like, "Hey, boss, what I did now, I called the local police station. I told my father is not listening to me, and still is going and is taking a race." And literally, he did that just to acting as a responsible kid. So we were sharing all those stories, and I connected with a lot of my old ex colleagues, people who were there in my team, my seniors during that time. So I think first 2-3 months were a lot of learning and old memories which we shared. So that's how we kept alive. We kept ourselves alive, if you ask me.
Interesting, Amit. So you actually kept the communication channel very live and made sure that you stayed connected with them at a personal level, so they didn't feel the stress and the anxiety to a very large extent. You try to minimize it to some extent, I guess.
One-to-one communication is the key.
Nice. Nalin, any experiences that you can share?
Yeah, so that one word, empathy, I think is very important, which Amit was also celebrating. See what happened. Ultimately, we are teams, but we are professional teams, So there's always a business context. Okay. I mean, the teams are there to engage business. Everything else is secondary. And I think in addition to empathizing with people, what I also felt was, especially for senior leadership and boss, it was very important to understand what is the impact of this situation on the overall business context, right? So what I felt was people were ready to accept salary cuts. People understood that bonuses will get late or may not come, and vice versa, and some people will be let go. But I think what really people can't appreciate or can't understand, if they are pushed too hard to achieve something which definitely is not achievable. So I think one thing which worked for me, and I've seen many of my friends in various industries with works on, that if you have experience, you should be able to comprehend, hey, this is what's going to happen in next 2 to 3 months, right? In terms of target setting, in terms of tasks, in terms of behavior, in terms of client management, in terms of product development, there has to be some understanding, right? There has to be some realignment. And I think wherever teams and leaderships were able to do that, the morale was very high. Physical aside, that everybody understood, but hey, okay, we are together, and we understand what the game is. And there were a few cases in my larger setup where it came across that the team leader or the manager did not understand the changing game, right? They were still stuck onto the same language, same review process, same targets. And I felt the teams lost it. They were not engaged.
Yes.
Right. So I think realignment, reimagining the world has changed. So you need to reimagine what is the role of you, your team, your business in that. And if that worked, I think that worked beautifully, And that coupled with the empathy and on what is happening in the personal life, how are people coping up, right? I think that's what people would have learned along this. Yeah.
Right. Bringing about a work-family concept helps in keeping them engaged. Thanks for that, Nalin. Malhar?
Hey, thanks. So I
probably
caught
have
up with.
had the biggest challenge of managing the work from home, because purely based on the number of employees that you had to cope with.
Absolutely. And I like the two words Nalin and Amit both mentioned, right? Empathy, realignment, and how to have this both in context of business, right? The BAU, the lights still have to be on, while the lights may not be on in the offices, they will be on in their homes, right? So we had to keep that because it was because the customer's lights have to be on, right? So we had to ensure that, and I guess there have been instances where many of our colleagues have been pushed a lot to achieve a certain goals, but I think that was a learning for everyone. And again, I go back to the thing, the times were unprecedented, right? So Everyone was learning. No one knew what is right versus what is wrong, right? I know I used to start my calls at 7 o'clock in the morning, end my day at 11 p.m. I literally had no time to go and even take a shower or take my breakfast, lunch, etc. But should I put the same pressure on my teams? It is my prerogative, right? So, should I? How do I manage them? How do I ensure that they have their work-life balances? Are they able to spend time with their family equally? Because burnout was real, right? Burnout was very, very real, especially for industries like ours. Even I guess for industry like with Amit's, burnout was real, right? So we had to find that balance, and no one knew, right? Honestly, no one knew what the limit is, right? So we had to keep on playing. Some of us learned the hard way. Some of us are learning it the hard way, right? And some of us are doing fantastically, because there are organizations who are doing pretty well in terms of, okay, this is work, this is life. But then it's very difficult to find that, say, boundary between, say, work and life. Somewhere you will have to uh, find that balance in terms of whether a business is important at this point of time, because survival is a very strong word at this point of time, right? So being relevant, survive these times, and you will still have food on the plate. If that's a very harsh thing to say, but that's a reality, unfortunately, right?
Yeah, you said it absolutely right. I remember reading about Jack Ma saying exactly the same thing, that for this year, the single most challenge for everyone is just to stay alive. Yeah, it sounded blunt, but I guess that's the harsh reality.
Yeah.
Thank you, Malhar. Over to you, Sid. You're on mute.
Thank you, Asha. So very relevant point, staying alive and from staying away from Corona and also ensuring food on the plate, both things. So there is something very unique about this particular recession, unlike earlier recessions. So in any recession, generally the labor class, the blue collared and the gray collared workers get impacted the most, and it stays it there. This time, I think the most impacted, apart from the blue collared workers, are also the white collared staff, the mid level, I would say, not even the junior management, the entry level, neither the top level. So this is as per various research reports that are floating around. So how do you think the future is going to be in terms of organizational structures? Will the mid level come back, or organizations will continue to have maybe flatter structures? And what are your views on this? Maybe we could start with Nalin.
Sure. I think you make a very valid and relevant point, and I keep on talking to various people about it. See, even if the situation becomes normal, even if the business context and the way companies function will not become normal.
They will.
Right? That's for sure. And let me put some more color to what I say. Companies, I think, have now learned that there is a different way of functioning. There can be a different way of functioning, right? And now that's good as well as not so good, but that's what the harsh reality is, because people now know, hey, there's another way. And there could be other way. What could be that way? You don't need so much of physical space. And as you were mentioning, you don't need so many levels of people. You don't need so many white collar people. You don't need so many managers. You don't need these skill sets, right? So I think that's the emerging context very clearly, right? Even if the whole world becomes normal in terms of vaccines, that all that we hope will come, and health is taken care of, and the illness is taken care of. But the way businesses function, I think that will never clone to what it was, And I do expect to see some fundamental shifts happening, right, on staffing, the kind of staffing, the way the offices are structured, the way capabilities are built up, right, the way hierarchies are built up, the way teams are built up. And that is set to change definitely. If I take the context of auto industry, I see fundamental shifts happening now. Absolutely. So companies will start hiring more digital savvy people, people who can do a lot of online stuff rather than people who are good to run around the street, right? Dealerships will start to use more very different kind of tools to engage with their customers. So that means the kind of staffing backend, the kind of people who are hired, the skill set is very different, right? I also expect a certain set of people and certain capabilities or certain skills. Remote working definitely will happen, right? In fact, if I were to set up an office today, very honestly, for a 500 member team, I would not take a 500 seat office. Definitely no, even in normal times now, because we know there are other better, probably more. So we are seeing some fundamental shifts. You're right in terms of staffing, in terms of delayering of how companies are structured, in terms of all that is going to happen, even in when the world turns to normal. Yeah.
Great. So Malar, just taking this point forward, what happens to this mid-level, the chunk of every organization which is getting delayered now? They can neither slide down because there are youngsters willing to work at maybe 70% of that cost. They can neither grow because at the top of the pyramid, there's hardly any space. So what happens to this huge belly fat?
Uh, Again, just a simple statement: either stay relevant or make space for someone, right? So, unfortunately, yeah, that is what is happening. So, the mid layer definitely has to reskill, and the pandemic actually has brought in this, like Nalin just mentioned, right? So brands, companies now know how to do business better than what it did previously, right? At cost, which could be much lesser in terms of manpower, in terms of say real estate, right? Everyone knows that yes, there is money to be saved in many of those places, and that's where this mid layer needs to look at how can they be relevant, right? How, what are those adjacent skills? Because companies may not need managers, companies may need people who can help them optimize their processes, right? Are these managers learning enough to know that there is a process that can be optimized, right? Or are they still running the same processes? Because the same process is not going to be there, right? Even if it is there today, once things open up, I am sure companies will look at changing or optimizing most of the processes. I have seen many organizations investing in, say, top 4, top 5 big consulting companies right now, just to understand which processes can be optimized, and that is definitely going to affect the mid layer. And so that is where they will need to find a way to be relevant, reskill themselves, right? Find those adjacent skills where they can probably leverage their knowledge. The other place, and I think which is where their existing experience can help them though, is understanding of those processes, because I see a lot of them would be just following a certain process, right? Say, for example, take a supply chain for an automobile company, right? That you know that something happens at manufacturing, it gets transported, then assembled somewhere, all this process. But there are people who know this processes in and out, right? Are these people trying to think digital? Are they ready to help their companies? Are they ready to help become consultants, right? Can they become consultants for smaller players, help them change those processes or optimize this process? There is a definite need for subject matter experts at this point of time. So for the mid layers, this is a huge opportunity. If you can become a subject matter expert, you can still be relevant. Then find the next digital or the next adjacent skill for them to still be relevant in their own organization. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. I take that input regarding reskilling, and I'm going to pose this question to Amit, since you mentioned about managing a multi-generation workforce, people who are above 60, 50, and different kind of age groups. So Amit, as an organization or as a manager, do you think there would be acceptance for reskilled older workers when there is a pool of young talent available? What are your views on that?
So see, there are, I'll say two views here. One is my own personal belief system. Over like last 15 years of industry experience. And second is what is currently happening, at least in India, in not only my industry, across various manufacturing and other industry. So first, the second perspective, the industry perspective. So 2 days back, I was sitting with somebody. He works in a big textile firm. One of my relative. He came down to Mumbai, and he's a young chap, around 25. And I asked him, how's everything going on in your organization? So he was like, there's some salary cut, but everything is fine. But what has happened? People who are above 45, they have been sacked. Above 45. So because then their salaries are high, and we have given new job roles, and our salary is hardly, earlier it was 50%, now it is 20%. And I think from next month, Diwali onwards, you'll start getting salary as usual. And he's saying it is happening. So there's a place called Tarapur, where the place from where I belong, which is the manufacturing hub of Maharashtra. There are 1,400 manufacturing units in Tarapur. Tata Steel, Jindal Steel, mostly steel industry hub on the border of Gujarat and Maharashtra. So I'm seeing this trend across manufacturing and across many industries, wherein if you are above 45, because every year you're getting a salary raise, so your salary has reached at one level. So you mentioned very rightly, younger generation is ready to work at 70% less, 50% less, and they're ready to roll. So many organizations are taking the advantage of this kind of situation for their own balance sheet benefit. I'll not say whether it is ethical, right or wrong. On a personal front, when you pose this question of reskilling of the older generation, I will readily accept, because in this situation, experience was one thing which was lacking among many people. Of course, nobody knows, especially in my early 40s, people don't know how to act in a pandemic, okay, or how to act in this kind of situation. But especially, we were looking for people who are more experienced, who have this empathy when we are coordinating with their team member, when we are dealing with the government officials, when we're dealing with the security, housekeeping staff. Sorry. So I think when you have a 30 or 20-year industry experience bundled with some skill sets which you have acquired new, so I think that makes a very lethal combination. And I would advise that people who are attending, apart from all of us, please read Scott Adams' advice on the best career advice. Skilling, mixing two skills and becoming the top 25% of your game. So I give this advice to everybody. I'm trying to imbibe that thing, that how can I mix one skill and two skill, and then if you're a chef, and then if you're a singer, and then you combine that skill and you become a lethal combination. If you are a salon person, you can do the haircut, and if you can sing very nicely, suddenly you got a lethal game skill set. So for a mid-level people also, I think there is an opportunity wherein they can mix 2 or 3 skills and become the top 25% in their game. One more example I'll give you. He's in his 40s and he works with a hedge fund. Now this guy, he is my, of course, my first cousin. He says, Bhaiya, even in this hedge fund or share market industry, when it comes to new event fund, I am in the top 3 among India. When it comes to, so it's a very niche segment, but I thought stock market, there are people like Mr. Damani, who is now the owner of DMart. There are people like Jhunjhunwala. There are another set of experienced people in hedge fund, the industry, Ray Dalio, the father of hedge fund. So I thought, how can I become inseparable in my, he works with Avendus, one of the biggest hedge fund in the world. So I try to find my niche and make sure that I'm in the top 10% or top 25% in that game. So I think that is one. one thing I liked about Mr. Malhar, which I was also thinking, there has been a rise in freelancers, I'll say consultants or freelancers in these last 2-3 months. I have seen a huge approach, especially in academics, especially in fitness. Might not be related directly to corporate, but there has been there is a group of my community who stays in US and Canada. So it's like, Khandelwal International. I'm a part of that WhatsApp group, and most of them are professors in IT sectors. They've been asking for services from India because they get converted dollar into India, into Indian INR. It becomes cheap for them. So I think a freelancing opportunity, consultant opportunity with experience and some skills can be a lethal combination for mid-level people, executives also. This is my 2 cents in this.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Very good input. Thank you so much. Asha, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Sid. I think there are a lot more I would like to talk about, because I think this is really very insightful. I think all of your experiences are showing up, and I'm really greedy for more, but since we are running out of time, maybe we should kind of come to the last question. Agree, Sid?
Yes, sure.
Would you like to share some of the closing remarks, just to give an opportunity if you're wanting to share something that we have not covered on this panel right now, before I do the closing, starting with Malhar?
I have something to share.
Yeah.
What I'm observing now is, you mentioned, Amit, a bit about freelancers. What I'm also seeing is that among young people now, right, and there is a sense of building solutions to the problems, right? So what I've seen is people have started to take charge rather than depending on a salary or a company or a job or something. And what I'm alluding to is you see various people in various stages of thinking about putting new concepts at startups, trying new things to help the society. So whether it relates to healthcare, whether it relates to testing, education, digitization, I think that's another opportunity which I'm seeing. People are now not only depending on a cushy job because they have seen that it's there today, it could not be there tomorrow.
Oh.
So one very positive offshoot of all this is that you've started groups of people, very young people, wanting to build companies, right? They have seen what the future could be. I mean, right? They're very young, but many of them have been able to see it. The world is not going to be the same place. So I'm very happy to see so many people speak to me to consult that there are people who want to build smaller companies, which will eventually go big. I see that happening now. Very honest. Yeah.
Very interesting. I think necessity is driving people to become entrepreneurs, actually. I think the spirit of entrepreneurship is naturally coming up in many, forced, compelled by the situation.
Yes.
Thank you, Nalin. Malhar?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So something that, say, we have not covered, rather, I would say for the younger audience of yours, right? And Nalin and Amit rightly mentioned, right? The shift in perception of the job, right? It's we need to look at that aspect. It's no more a job, right? It's a task, right? And the younger audience is starting to look at job in that way. It's a certain task that they have to do it, complete that, move to the next one, right? And I have seen that, right? So I work with a lot of younger crowd in the marketing side. A lot of them are too digital savvy, right? So if I have to put it that way, so they keep on learning. They have this voracious appetite to learn, right? And something that I guess the mid layer really needs to learn, right? So because that appetite, because I see people spending nights and nights to code something, to build solutions, like Nalin just said, right? They're ready to spend their time to build solution, and they do have a day job, right? Mind you, they do have their day jobs. In spite of that, they will just try to say, for example, so my wife runs her baking academy in Bangalore, and now given the current situation, the academic front may not work, right? So while she is shifting to the retail game, and I was closely looking at how some of the other players are, I see a lot of youngsters coming in the game and changing the entire dimension, right? They are coming and say a simple thing that I was just looking at this week is packaging, right? So there is an entire marketplace for packaging, and it's driven by 25-year-olds, right? It's not a 45-year-old, 50-year-old person driving this business. 25-year-old guy is ready to come to your shop, say, yes, tell me what packaging it is. He will go to the printer, get it printed. He will do all the running for you. They build their own marketplace. So, and when I asked them, how did you do it? I was like, oh, there are tools here, there are tools there. We just integrated, say, 5 different tools and created this marketplace. And how long did it take? It's about a month, right? Look at the energy they bring in, right? So to the younger audience, stay hungry, right? Be ready to learn, be ready to unlearn, right? That is also a very important thing. And there are enough opportunities, right? We are 1 billion plus people in this country. There are 1 billion opportunities, right? You just have to find the problem for the solution to meet. That's my yeah.
Very nice. Thank you, Malhar. Thanks for that. Innovation is the key, and situation is making people innovative.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Amit?
See, I think most of the points have been covered by Malhar and Nanil. But I would like to add one more point here. Is I'm in touch with many entrepreneurs who are in their they are just touched their 40s, and they're doing phenomenally well. No, in a turnover of around between 50 CR to 250 CR, they're doing good business. And I like mobile accessories, one business. They are saying that we have witnessed 100% spike pre-COVID. Like last year, we were 1. Now we are 1+1, or we are 2x. Okay. In food also, dry food. There's vendor. He's the largest wholesaler in Mumbai. He's saying, boss, dry food, people are not asking for discounts. And the kind of run rate I'm getting in discount, I'm short of supply. Supply is the key. Demand, there is no problem with the demand. And dry food, like the costliest dry fruits in the country. So apart from the mid-level corporate people like us, there are mid-level entrepreneurs. They are also coming up with new ways. So for them, digital was demonetization was the biggest impact for their business. They're saying after demonetization, this has been the biggest impact, but positively. We always thought we would like to learn digital, launch our e-commerce portal, be on Amazon. But because of thanks to COVID, they are the chief digital officer of my organization. Because of that, everything is accelerated to a 3x or 5x speed. So I think everybody is hungry, not even the students, but even the mid-level entrepreneurs. They are also hungry to learn new ways and how they can build up to the new demand, apart from selling face masks and apart from selling that thermometer thing and apart from these two things, they are also venturing into different territory. Like my neighbor is, so you talk to anybody saying, "Arey yaar, future group mein kuch, can you have some stuff? I have this sanitizer and mask and this thermometer." So every second house is selling that. So apart from that learning, now they are overstocked. They don't know what to do with that stuff. I know one guy has ordered so many those thermometer. I think I don't know what's the exact name from China. He's saying that time I paid double the price. Now nobody is ready to take half of the price. The entire stock is dead. So, but of course, there are many opportunities for not even students, for entrepreneurs or mid-level people. One thing I would say, for me personally, last 6 months I've been roller coaster in terms of family, in terms of learning, and in terms of career also, career shift. So I would hope and pray that for everybody, there should be a lot of optimism, peace, and health and happiness. That's what.
Very nice. Thank you, Amit. So when we set out on this session, the topic that we conceptualized was goal setting. But the COVID has been such a strong disruptor, damaging in many ways, teaching us lessons in some ways. I think performance goals, performance appraisals are a far cry. I think the challenge for today is survival, stay relevant, take care of your square meals. I think that's the most important things that comes to anybody's mind. And I think this session has given a lot of, what shall I say, learnings from all of you. All of you have shared your learnings in such an effective manner. And I think, I'm sure there are a lot of takeaways from this to many people who will be watching this show later on, also on our social media channels. But just to summarize very quickly, I think there are 5 very key things that I noted down, and I was very impressed because I thought they were really impactful. Not that we don't know it, but when we note it, I think it makes a lot more sense. Be reskill and stay relevant. Find your own niche. Be empathetic. Think digital, and be a solution to your problem. And I think if we can remember these 4 or 5 guideline notes from this session, I think all of us can be somewhere better off than where we were. So thank you, Amit. Thank you, Malhar. Thank you, Nalin. Really grateful that you all spared time to come and speak to us on this platform. Not just that, but I think you really took, they made the extra effort to share all your key insights, experiences. I'm sure many would have benefited. Thank you all so much for making this event happen.